Good morning. Sitting in for Gretchen Ho, I'm Pauline Verzosa. It is Friday, the 21st of March, and we're bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Vice President Sara Duterte says her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, may never return to the Philippines, blaming the Marcos administration for his detention in The Hague. Heads up for all motorists heading north. Expect heavy traffic at NLEX for the next 3 weeks as repairs on the Marilao Interchange Bridge are ongoing. And the House Tri-Committee will hold its third public hearing today, Friday, to discuss disinformation and fake news. 11 social media personalities face potential contempt and detention for failing to attend the previous hearings. Vice President Sara Duterte claimed that the arrest of her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, was politically motivated. She also admitted the possibility that her father may not be able to return home following his arrest. The details of that in this report.
Vice President Sara Duterte attended the Senate hearing on the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte via video conference on Thursday. The probe was led by presidential sister and Senate panel chairperson Amy Marcos. During the hearing, VP Sara maintained that her father's arrest was politically motivated and constituted extraordinary retention, as there was no valid warrant from a Philippine court.
For an arrest to be lawful, it must be carried out pursuant to a warrant issued by a Filipino judge of a Philippine court. Nasaan po ang warrant of arrest na inisyu ng hukuman ng Pilipinas? Wala. Without a valid warrant from a Philippine court, this was at best a warrantless arrest. Even by ICC standards, the former president should have been brought before a Philippine judge to determine the validity of his arrest before he was handed over to a foreign court.
She also accused the administration of President Bongbong Marcos of using government resources and the International Criminal Court to, quote, demolish the opposition.
Alam naman natin lahat at alam nila na mali ang ginawa nila. Ginawa nila yon just to demolish political opponents. This is all about politics. The administration is using government resources, the ICC, to demolish the opposition.
Shortly after the hearing, the Vice President held a press briefing. She acknowledged the possibility that her father may no longer be able to return to the country following his arrest.
Sa totoo lang, wala talaga akong nararamdaman. Hindi ako galit, hindi ako disappointed. Nothing at all. Kasi pointless naman na mag-harbor ako ng feelings about what happened. Hindi na siya maibabalik. Hindi na mababalik si Pangulong Duterte sa Pilipinas. So what we should do as a country is move on from what happened.
She also addressed questions about a possible traitor within her father's circle.
Hindi ko matawag siguro na traitor, pero sigurado ako sa dami ng tao doon sa loob ng kwarto na yon ay meron talagang nagsasabi kung ano ang pinag-uusapan doon sa loob. Kung kanino nila sinasabi, hindi ko alam.
Meanwhile, VP Sara thanks Senator Amy Marcos for leading the inquiry. She added that she may return home in April after assembling her father's defense team.
Meanwhile, Senator Amy Marcos grilled officials of her very own brother, President Bongbong Marcos, over the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte. But these officials insist that their operation and procedure were legal. Mayan Los Baños has this report.
Why did government surrender former President Rodrigo Duterte to a foreign tribunal? This was the main question in Thursday's probe on the legality of Digong's arrest by virtue of a warrant from the International Criminal Court.
Isinuko natin si Rodrigo Roa Duterte sa dayuhan na para bang wala siyang sariling bayan, na para bang hindi na natin kayang humusga sa sarili nating tahanan. Since when did the Philippines become a province of The Hague?
Presidential sister and known Duterte ally Senator Amy Marcos took the lead in questioning her brother's top security and law enforcement officials, including Justice Secretary Boying Rimulya, DILG Chief John Vic Rimulya, Defense Secretary Gibo Chodoro, National Security Advisor Eduardo Año, and CIDG Director Major General Nicolas Torre III. At the onset, Amy reminded these attendees of her brother's stance on the ICC.
I do not recognize the jurisdiction of ICC in the Philippines.
The president's men agreed that the ICC has no authority over the Philippines, but defended Duterte's arrests, saying they did not take part in the court's probe on Digong's drug war.
We did not assist the ICC. We have never spoken to them.
If that's the case, Senator Marcos said, why turn in Duterte? DOJ Chief Rimulya says individuals violating international humanitarian law is a different story altogether, whether or not the Philippines is a member of the ICC.
We surrendered an individual to the ICC. We did not surrender as a country, but he was surrendered due to a warrant of arrest issued by the ICC through the Interpol.
For a good part of the upper chamber's inquiry, Senator Marcos zoomed in on the significance of diffusion against a red notice from Interpol when it came to Duterte's case. A red notice is sent out to locate and arrest personalities wanted for prosecution or has skipped sentences, while a diffusion is a mere request for cooperation. The Philippine Center on Transnational Crime clarified that the Interpol issued a wanted person diffusion, but it was as good as a red notice. Then, another question from the Senate was Duterte's arrest plan. Rimulya of the DILG and Año of the NSC both denied any preparation for the capture, claiming that they only knew of the ICC warrant at dawn of March 11, or hours before the arrest. Año adds what happened to Duterte pains him.
As a former member of the cabinet of the Duterte administration, it is also very hard for me to see the former president arrested. I worked closely with former President Duterte for so many years through the most serious crisis the country faced, and we have developed and nurtured a personal friendship. He trusted and respected me in the same way I trusted and respected him, even after our terms ended.
He also denied creating a core group to take charge of Digong's arrest.
The implementation of the ICC warrant is beyond my mandate, and I had no part in it. It is utterly unacceptable and unfair that my name is being dragged into an alleged grand conspiracy.
Then, Senator Amy questioned the Interior Secretary about the alleged planning session he had with President Marcos when Duterte's warrant came out. Rimulya was quick to deny this as well, although he did say they talked about the warrant. Only by then, it was still unconfirmed.
There was no mastermind. We were discussing mainly about what the president's statements were in Hong Kong, and it was based all on that statement, ma'am.
At the end of the hearing, Senator Marcos still has a lot of unanswered questions. She says she has yet to determine if a second hearing is called for. Reporting for News 5, Mean Los Baños, we are One News.
Now in other news, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has appointed Henry Roel Aguda as the new Secretary of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT. Aguda is a banking, technology, and telecommunications expert. He previously served as the digital infrastructure lead at the Private Sector Advisory Council. Before his appointment, he was also the president and CEO of Union Digital Bank. He will be replacing Ivan John Uy, who resigned from his post earlier this month. And now for the latest on the weather, some areas may experience rains over the weekend. Let's get more details on this from Pagasa weather forecaster Dan Villamil. Good morning, Dan. Ano-ano ba itong mga pag-ulan na nararanasan natin at ano-anong mga lugar ang maapektuhan nito?
Good morning, Miss Lynn, at sa ating mga takasubaybay. Ngayong araw nga, malaking bahagi nating bansa makakaranas ng mga pag-ulan. Una, dahil sa shoreline, asahan natin itong mga pag-ulan sa Visayas, malaking bahagi ng Bicol Region at sa Dinagat Islands. Dahil naman sa easterly, so yung hangin na nagagaling sa Karakatang Pasipiko, makakaranas din tayo ng mga pag-ulan sa ilang areas ng Mindanao, sa Davao Region, Zamboanga Peninsula, Sarangani, Basilan, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi at sa Palawan. Itong northeast monsoon o malamig na hanging amihan magdadala ng mga kaulapan at pag-ambon dito sa areas ng Cagayan Valley, Apayao, Aurora at sa lalawigan ng Quezon. Sa Metro Manila at sa nalalabing bahagi ng ating bansa, magpapatuloy itong maaliwala sa panahon. May tsansa pa rin tayo ng mga light rains o pag-ambon sa Metro Manila and the rest of Luzon at tsansa naman ng thunderstorms mararanasan dito sa nalalabing bahagi ng Mindanao. Sa kalagayan ng ating karagatan, may gale warning pa rin tayo nakataas dito sa eastern seaboards ng Southern Luzon at Visayas. Kaya sa ating mga kababayang mangingisda at may mga maliliit na sasakyang pandagat sa area na ito, huwag po muna tayong pamalaot dahil makaranas tayo ng maalong karagatan na dala ng hanging amihan. Yes po.
Oo, Dan, sabi kasi din nila, no, magtatapos na daw ang amihan ngayong weekend. Tama ba yun? At ito na rin ba ang simula ng dry season o tag-init dito sa bansa?
Well, after ditong episode ng ating amihan, may nakikitaan pa tayong possible surge towards the end of the month. So, pero inasa natin itong area na lamang ng Northern Luzon yung maapektuhan. So, starting over the weekend, inasa natin yung continue sa paghina ng amihan for Metro Manila and most of Southern Luzon, Visayas and Mindanao. Magpapatuloy na itong mainit at panahon. Pero itong area nga ng Northern Luzon, possible in the coming weeks, makakaranas pa rin ng malamig na panahon.
So, kailan inaasahan ng pag-asa ang simula ng tag-init?
Nasan po natin bago matapos itong buwan ng Marso.
Sa Abril pa.
Yes po, bago matapos, more or less, inasa na natin yung official onset ng ating dry season.
At Dan, ano ba yung mga lugar na posibleng makaranas pa rin ng danger level heat index?
Well, yung forecast heat index po natin for today, nasa natin itong danger levels ng heat index. As of now, wala tayong nakikita ang mga lugar na makakaranas din ng danger levels. No? Kasi sa ngayon, may current ongoing tayong bugso ng northeast. At inasan pa rin natin ng ganito yung forecast natin sa mga sunod na araw.
Pero ngayong summer ba, Dan, inaasahang mas magiging mainit ang dry season kumpara sa mga nakaraang taon?
Within normal thresholds pa naman po yung nakikita natin. No? So more or less, yung average temperatures natin mataas naman po talaga kasi yung temperature natin during the dry season. So more or less, ganun pa rin nakikita natin scenario as of now.
At tanungin lang din namin, Dan, kasi may matinding pagbaha nga sa Visayas region. Sapat ba yung advisory na nabibigay doon?
Yes po, so tuloy-tuloy naman po yung heavy rainfall warnings and weather advisories na inisyo kahapon. So lahat po ng mga advisories na ito ay na-disseminate at na-post sa ating website at social media accounts.
Alright, maraming salamat para sa update na yan. That was Pag-asa weather forecaster Dan Villamil. We're going to take a quick break, but don't go away. We will be back with more stories. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. The repair of the Marilao Interchange Bridge will take about 2 to 3 weeks after sustaining severe damage due to a road mishap. Here's that report.
Heavy traffic is expected along parts of the North Luzon Expressway after a truck crashed into the Marilao Interchange Bridge. According to NLEX management, the girder or the support beam under the bridge sustained severe damage. As a result, only Class 1 vehicles or light vehicles are allowed to pass over it for now. A temporary support structure has been installed at the Marilao Interchange Bridge, but repairs are expected to take 2 to 3 weeks.
Yun po yung sinisiguro po namin. I mean, yun po yung sa coordination with our contractor na hindi dapat talaga umabot po ng Holy Week. So, actually, yung 2 to 3 weeks, may konting leeway na po yun. So, we're hoping na dapat matapos nila talaga between 2 to 3 weeks.
Authorities advise motorists to take alternate routes. For motorists heading north, you may exit at Karuhatan, Paso de Blas or May Kawayan, then take MacArthur Highway before re-entering NLEX via Ciudad de Victoria or the Bukawe Interchange. For those heading to Manila, you may exit at Bukawe Interchange or Ciudad de Victoria, take MacArthur Highway, and re-enter NLEX via May Kawayan southbound. The truck driver responsible for damaging the bridge has been charged with reckless imprudence, resulting in damage to property. For News 5, Gerard de la Peña, we are One News.
And to further discuss this matter, we are now joined by Mr. Robin Ignacio, AVP for Traffic Operations at NLEX. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us here on Morning Matters.
Good morning, ma'am, and good morning to our televiewers.
All right, sir. Unang-una po, ano ba ang sitwasyon ngayon sa NLEX at hanggang saan na po aabot ang traffic sa northbound stretch?
Yes, for the bridge repair is already ongoing po. At yun nga po, meron po tayong shoring, yung support na nilagay doon sa ilalim. So, 2 lanes needs to be closed pa rin po. And yung traffic queuing po natin is nandito po sa may Kawayan area. So, meron din po tayong implement na counterflow. And pag nag-implement po tayo ng counterflow, doon po nagkakaroon naman po ng pag-queuing po doon sa may southbound direction. So, binabalance na lang po natin yung flow. Comparing po nung first day na nagkaroon ng problema yung bridge, yung ating traffic so far ay mas maiksi na po ngayon kesa yung first day, the other day po, kung saan po ay talagang umaabot po hanggang Balintawak barrier yung tail end po natin.
At sir, but as of this morning, do you already have data po kung gaano kabilis o gaano kabagal yung tinatakbo ng mga sasakyan dyan ngayon sa NLEX northbound?
The average speed po ng slow-moving traffic natin is nasa 10 to 20 kph pa rin po, ma'am.
Okay, so nabanggit nyo nga sir, lanes 2 and 3 in the northbound direction are temporarily closed habang ginagawa po itong Marilao Interchange Bridge. At sinabi nyo nga, posible nga magbukas ng counterflow lane o zipper lane sa southbound to ease the traffic. Kailan po ba yan may implement? Anong oras? Kasi Friday po ngayon sir, so expected mas maraming sasakyan ang dadaan sa NLEX.
Yun po, ma'am, ang tinitingnan po kasi natin kung talagang hahaba pa po yung tail end ng ating northbound traffic. Tapos mas maiksi dito sa southbound, doon po kami nag-i-implement ng counterflow.
So anong oras po siya bubuksan, sir? Is it open right now or what measures, ano ba yung criteria nun?
Yes, ma'am. Meron lang pong naka-close na isang lane dito sa may southbound. So, pag open po yun, pwede na po namin implement. I think siguro in around 9 o'clock, ma-open po natin ulit.
And Sir Robin, may mga repair din daw po na inaayos sa Marilao southbound. Tama po ba yun? So, ilang lanes lang ngayon ang nakabukas dyan? At gano'n na rin kahaba ang traffic build-up doon?
Opo, yun nga po yung nabanggit ko na may isang lane na naka-close. Ginagawa during the night yun po, before pa po na ma-hit yung bridge. And
so, po yun?
kagabi, kailangan pong tapusin yung one lane na ginagawa dun sa southbound. And anytime from now, matatapos na po yung curing, so mabubuksan na po yung lane. So pag nabuksan po yung lane at iiksi yung traffic po natin dito sa southbound, which is nasa mga more than 2 kilometers po, magpapa-counterflow na po ulit tayo. Pwede na po natin ulit kunin yung one lane from southbound for northbound traffic.
Okay, eto Sir Robin, ano ba yung clear timeline nyo sa pagsasaayos ng Marilao Interchange Bridge? Because NLEX management said you are eyeing within 2 to 3 weeks. Posible pa ba yun, sir, ma-expedite without compromising yung quality ng repairs, pati yung safety na rin ng mga motorista po?
Yes, ma'am, that's the initial assessment of our engineers and the contractor. Pero tama po kayo, maaari itong mapapabilis kung yun po, identify naman na po yung gagawin. Like, they're going to cut po yung affected po, yung nasira na horizontal beams, dalawa po yun, and then they're going to replace, so they have to re-weld it para yun po, mapalitan po ito at maibalik po dun sa original strength po ng bridge.
And sir, hindi naman po to, confident naman po kayo na hindi ito aabot ng Holy Week because alam naman natin po na pag Holy Week na, hundreds of thousands of vehicles ply this expressway.
Yes, ma'am. Positive. We are very confident po na hindi po ito aabot ng Holy Week. And yun nga po, doon sa planning talaga, we ensure na talagang hindi aabot dahil magkakaroon ng mas malaking problema pagka umabot po sa Holy Week considering po yung volume ng ating mga motorista na nagbabakasyon.
And sir, sa inyong pagtala, ilang oras po ba ang nadagdag ngayon sa travel time ng mga motorista na dumadaan sa NLEX?
Usually po pagka yung traffic natin ay halos umaabot po dito sa Balintawak, nadadagdagan ng more than 1 hour po yung ating travel time. Pero pagka ganito na nag-improve naman po compared nung first 2 days, maaring nasa mga madadagdagan na lang ng 30 minutes or even less than 30 minutes pagka ganyan po kaiksi yung ating traffic.
And Sir Robin, pag-usapan natin nga yung pagsaayos nga nitong Marilao Interchange Bridge. Kanino po ba talagang responsibilidad ang pagsasaayos nito? Because I understand this is not a property of NLEX or MPTC. In fact, it's a government property. Tama po ba yun?
That's correct, ma'am. Yun nga lang po, we already have coordinations with DPWH. Actually, years back na po yun. And with the local government of Marilao. Pero yun, wala pa pong clear na identification kung kanino po yung bridge. But definitely, it's not the property of NLEX. But of course, if there's a problem like that happens, kailangan po talagang i-repair or i-address kaagad ni NLEX Corporation. And then, yun po, para po sa ating mga motorista.
Oo nga, yun na nga sir, so hindi malinaw kung si DPWH po ba dapat mag-aayos, si Marilao LGU, but here is NLEX taking it upon itself na to fix the damage para lang bumalik ang operasyon sa normal. Pero nakausap na po ba ang DPWH or LGU? Will they also be contributing to the repair of this? O siguro ibabalik yung nagastos ng NLEX?
Nakakausap naman po ang mga local government unit at saka yung DPWH, pero I'm not sure if there's an agreement like that na, pero definitely kailangan po maisaayos muna po yung tulay, and then after that maybe we can hold the discussion if meron pong ganyang pwedeng pag-usapan po.
Pero sir, ito bang cost also will be shouldered by the truck driver or yung operator noon? Magkano po ba ang estimate damage dun sa tulay?
Yun nga po, yung naka-hit na truck, the driver and the owner, yun po, nag-file po kami ng case. Actually, it's reckless imprudence resulting in damage to property. So meron talaga silang sasagutin na amount, yung amount ng pag-repair ng bridge. And I'm not quite sure po dun sa amount. It runs in millions of pesos, of course. So, yun po yung ma-recover natin if ever dun sa truck driver and the truck owner. But the thing is, yun pong additional expenses natin in terms of yung mga additional traffic management, more so yung ngayon na-incur na inconvenience sa ating mga motorista ay yun po yung mahirap ng i-quantify.
Oo, talaga na mga malaki yung inconvenience na naidulot nito, sir, ano? Pero marami rin po nga nagtataka, paano nga po ba nakalusot ang truck na ito dyan sa NLEX kung ang sinasabing taas niya ay 4.9 meters high, pero yung vertical clearance lang po ng Marilao Bridge ay 4.2, tama po ba?
4.5 actually, ma'am, but we are
4.5,
allowing
okay.
4.27 only kasi, yeah, para yung play nung truck, kung medyo tumatalbog while running, ay ma-ensure natin na it will not hit the bridge. So, yun po sa question na kung paano po nakalusot, yun nga po, it is an unfortunate situation na meron naman po kami mga teams dun sa pinasukan na toll plaza, dun sa may karuhan. Nagbabantay dun mga overhigh trucks, ano po. Unfortunately nga, itong truck na to, while our teams are busy measuring yung other trucks, kasi maraming trucks po pumapasok dun sa area, yun po, lumusot po siya dun sa hindi lane ng pang-truck, dun sa pang class 1 lane. So, talagang hindi na po nakita ng ating mga teams at tumuloy-tuloy po siya hanggang sa nakarating nga po dun sa Marilao.
Kaya tumama din po talaga, no? Kasi kung 4.9 meters na naman yung
Yes,
taas
ma'am.
po niya, napakalayo po nun nasa allowed na vertical clearance. But sir, you also have...
4.27 po. Yes, ma'am.
Oo. So, but sir, you also have the driver saying na inassume daw kasi niya na pare-pareho lang naman daw yung vertical clearance ng lahat ng mga bridge. Kaya akala niya, kaya confident daw siya, nalulusot din daw siya dito sa Marilao. Sir, iba-iba po ba ang vertical clearance nga ng mga... Go ahead, sir.
Yes, ma'am. May pagkakaibang konti yung vertical clearance and as a background po, NLEX is an old expressway. So, yung ating mga bridges crossing the expressway talagang medyo mas mababa compared po dun sa mga bridges constructed after 2000 wherein bago na yung civil code po ng DPWH na mas matataas na po yung requirement ng vertical clearance. So, yung pong sinasabi niya magkakaiba, meron naman po talagang pagkakaibang mali, konti yung mga bridges dito pero mas mababa lang. And yun nga po, isa itong Marilao Bridge sa mga pinakamababa yung vertical clearance. And I think makikita naman po talaga ng mga drivers, mga truck owners pag dumadaan sila dito sa NLEX, nakalagay po talaga 4.27 even at the entries, ano. And also at the median, meron po kaming mga signages kilometers away from the bridge. Meron po tayong signages na 4.27 meters lang yung maximum height.
Okay, so sir, in light of this incident already happening and causing inconvenience already to several motorists, ano po ba yung additional measures na iniisip po ng NLEX to avoid this incident from happening again? Ang tanong ko rin po dyan, is there technology po ba para ma-detect yung height para mas maging smooth yung process ng kanilang pagpasok sa mga tollway plaza?
Actually, for the mentioned toll plaza na yung karuhatan po, for the truck lanes, identified truck lanes, meron po kaming system po talaga na height detector na nakalagay doon. Na kung mas mataas po siya ng 4.27 meters, mag-a-alarm yung system. Meron po siyang audible as well as yung light na mati-trigger pagka higher than 4.27 siya. Yun nga lang, unfortunately, hindi doon dumaan yung truck. So, what we did right after that is talagang naglagay na po tayo ng mga gantry ulit doon sa mga lanes na hindi dapat dadaanan ng mga trucks. Kaya pagka sila ay magpupumilit pong pumasok, ang mangyari po, aksidente pa rin po dahil yung gantries na yun yung mahihit po nila. So, mainam po talaga, napakalaking contribution po yung cooperation ng mga truck owners as well as yung mga drivers na tingnan yung ating mga ini-implement dito sa NLEX at yun, para maiwasan po yung mga aksidente. Kasi kahit maglagay po tayo ng ganyan at ma-aksidente po sila, aberya pa rin po yun at yun nga po, hindi po natin talaga gusto magkaroon ng aksidente.
So moving forward, sir, strictly, lahat ng mga truck ngayon ay pwede lamang dumaan sa truck lane sa mga toll plaza?
Yes, ma'am. Yun po yung implement po natin. And yung pang class 1 lanes, lalagyan po namin ng gantry lower than po yung sa 4.27 para ma-ensure na class 1 or yung mga sedan lang po yung makakadaan.
And okay, sir, well, in light of already the repairs being done dito nga sa Marilao Interchange Bridge, ano yung mga alternate routes? Magbubukas pa ba ng alternate routes for motorists to ease the congestion dito sa NLEX?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Aside from yung implementation natin ng counterflow from time to time when we are allowed by the traffic volume at the other direction, meron po kaming pinost sa aming social media na alternative routes at meron pong pag northbound, meron po yung they can take MacArthur and then turn right towards Bocaue bypass road and then accessing through Ciudad de Victoria interchange, pwede po sila pumasok ulit sa northbound entry or they can take po yung Bocaue interchange. Bocaue interchange from MacArthur, then pwede po silang pumasok po ng northbound entry. And for the southbound naman po, they can exit as early as Bocaue interchange southbound, then towards MacArthur. And if they want to come back to NLEX, they can take towards Maykawayan area. Or the other alternate is they can take Ciudad de Victoria interchange exit southbound towards MacArthur and back to NLEX through Maykawayan area. Or they can go straight na po through MacArthur and then sa may monumento na po sila mag-access ng EDSA.
Ayan talaga nga para mas maiging maplano ng mga motorista ang kanilang biyahe bago pa sila dumaan dyan sa NLEX. Pero ito sir, pahuling tanong na lang po, ano po ang mensahe nyo sa publiko, sa mga motorista nga naabala po nitong insidenteng ito?
Opo, yun po, talagang humihingi po kami ng paumanhin. Bagamat hindi naman natin talaga kagustuhan na may mangyaring to, nararamdaman po natin talaga yung dulot na perwisyo nitong bumanggang truck dito sa Marilao. So sa ating mga motorista, yun po, kaunting tiyaga na lang po at matatapos yun po yung bridge, babalik na po tayo sa normal. At para naman po dun sa mga truck operators and drivers, sana po sundin po yung mga nilalagay naming mga maximum height at saka yung ating traffic rules and regulations dito sa NLEX para maiwasan po ito kasi sila din po ay maperwiso pero yun nga po, nadamay pa po yung karamihan ng ating mga motorista dito sa NLEX. So pasensya na po at maraming salamat po.
Alright, maraming salamat din po. That was the AVP for Traffic Operations at NLEX, Mr. Robin Ignacio. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much po.
Stay tuned because Morning Matters will be back after this short break. Keep it here. Welcome back. I'm Pauline Verzosa, and this is Morning Matters. The Masungi Georeserve Foundation has appealed to President Bongbong Marcos Jr. to intervene in the eviction order issued by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. The foundation urged the government to reassess the decision and engage in open dialogue with stakeholders to protect the conservation site. A Blue Star Construction and Development Corporation, the developer behind Masungi, confirmed that it received the DENR's official notice terminating their joint venture on March 17. This comes 10 days after the DENR announced the agreement's cancellation and ordered the company to vacate the 300-hectare site in Rizal, along with the Masungi Georeserve Foundation. For the Masungi Georeserve Foundation, which has restored over 2,000 hectares of forest land, the eviction order threatens years of conservation efforts. And now let's talk more about this with Anne Dumaling of the Masungi Georeserve Foundation, who joins us now live via Zoom. Hi, Anne. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Hello, good morning.
All right, Anne, well, you already confirmed receipt of the eviction notice from the DENR last Monday. Tell us about your plans. Do you plan to comply or will you stand your ground and contest this?
Absolutely, we will stand our ground. Our lawyers are in the process of coming up with the remedies that we will be taking in the next coming days, and we will be sharing those in due time.
And Blue Star Construction and the Masungi Georeserve Foundation has been calling for due process in light of the eviction notice issued by the DENR. Tell us, where does it exactly lack in fairness and due process?
Where it lacks is number one, if you look at Blue Star's agreement with the DENR, it provides for mechanisms for dialogue. There's an oversight committee chaired by no less than DENR, and they have not convened us for these particular issues. It has not been relayed to us at all in any notices or any communication. And so this really feels so haphazard, in addition to it being a unilateral cancellation that completely does away with the processes of the law. So that alone already feels like it doesn't follow the due process. It feels very malicious in intent. And, there are so many ways to be able to dialogue in this particular administration that hasn't even been granted to us, despite the continuous, detection of disinformation or misleading statements coming from the department itself. That's particularly why. Then we put that in contrast to how the other land grabbers in this particular lot and the rest of the Upper Marikina are treated. And they're just there. I doubt they even have an eviction notice the way we have one. No? So parang, it just doesn't align. We've been doing conservation work here in good faith. Blue Star has been doing conservation work here in good faith for nearing 3 decades now. And yet it seems like the push to get rid of us is stronger than what the NIPAS law mandates as black and white illegal in these parts.
Okay, Anne, but on the side of the DENR, well, they are arguing that Blue Star failed to deliver its end of the deal, particularly the another 5,000 housing units under the 2002 supplemental agreement. And let me just quote Asek Eneran here, no? He said that wala pang nagagawang housing units doon sa 300 hectares covered by the 2002 violations. Instead, ang ginawa nila ay mga trails at web. Tell us what's the real situation here, Anne.
Treating it as simplistic as this is severely misleading. We start with the fact that they failed to deliver their part of the agreement. And the contract specifically says that it doesn't start until they clear the land free of encumbrances. Now, and if you look at the site now, what is recovered in Lot 10 would be largely non-buildable areas that should be, if we stay true to the contract, be set aside for conservation. No? In fact, the flatter areas are still in the hands of a lot of land speculators we time and time again remind DNR to take action to and take action on because how these groups compromise conservation and compromise a government project and government property. So we need to start with that, no? That is the reason why there's no activity in these parts. And I also feel like kulang ng konteksto when we talk about bakit nawala
The
yung
housing.
massive development of thousands of houses, no? Before that, though, I'd like to highlight that utilities, roads, conservation, etc., has been delivered in these parts. Management has been continuously delivered in these parts. So to see it in the very narrow perspective of simply houses built is largely incomplete, no? And yung 5,000 houses, I'm sorry if I'm going on continuously.
Go ahead, go
We
ahead.
have to also remember um, that the agreement for the 300 hectares, it was crafted and created immediately after the delivery of land development in the core and initial area, no? And that was completed. It was visited by leadership. The quality was good. We all had high hopes for the projects. That's why it was extended in the middle of a project delivery. It wasn't like walang na-deliver, meron in that core area, in fact, and then biglang in-extend. That wasn't so. Added to the fact that during that time, it was a national issue to be dealing with land speculators and land syndicates. And it was established in these parts that land speculation was prolific, even to the extent of the NR officials getting penalized and getting booted out of their position for not following through na hindi dapat nagbibigay ng tenurial instrument in these zones, no? So we need to consider all of that. Last, added to the fact that even if they do not talk about it, in 2011 to 2014, we also have been in talks with the DNR for developments that are less intrusive. So to say that they do not have an idea that we will be pursuing conservation more strongly is misplaced. It's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, but going back to the initial intent of this agreement, was the conservation efforts, has that always been part of the initial agreement? Was that always a component here, or was it more so for the housing development?
Both of it are part
Okay.
of the agreement. The terms of reference of the initial agreement was actually put together by none other than Dean Tony Lavinia, who is also a renowned conservationist. The conservation development model is a renowned conservation financing mechanism that the project was supposed to pioneer. And the idea was to have more of the land conserved, 70% of and above conserved, with a 30% or less development component. No? And this really comes from, well, a twofold problem in the Philippines. One is the lack of financing for conservation in the Philippines. It's at 80%. And the other would be, again, the fact that we do need other area-based conservation mechanisms in areas where governance and the management of these sites have proven to be ineffective, which is what we're seeing in the Upper Marikina, no? With an 11 to 20% forest cover for, for 20 million Filipinos downstream in the capitals. It's ridiculous. Something needs to be done about that.
So, Anne, are you seeing this eviction notice as linked to possible other business interests that are trying to take over the land?
I cannot deny that that would be a clear yes for me. This is all happening in the context of so many other interests entering the picture. We have a quarry that's interested in the site saying that they have titles to it, that these titles have not been discussed in elaborate detail by the DNR. There's a wind energy farm that's attempting to enter this nature reserve and sanctuary. There are land speculators. We've reported time and time again on the very same lot to DNR, no? But still have not been acted on legally. So yes, these interests are at play. And if the project disappears suddenly, as we can see, 15 days, we don't even know what the plans are. We're definitely at a disadvantage. Government is definitely at a disadvantage.
And that's why you called on President Bongbong Marcos, no, to help this eviction. But in case this eviction does push through, and I mean, let's talk about the immediate and long-term environmental risks and how this will affect the jobs, the livelihood of people there over at the Masungi Georeserve and the rangers.
Yes, absolutely. No? So if we do have to vacate this area without a plan, this really puts in danger, nilalagay sa kapahamakan yung dekada-dekadang forest conservation work and wildlife protection and sustainable tourism that's already been started in these parts. It compromises the livelihood of up to 100 dedicated rangers and their families that have spent decades and years getting to know this land and protecting it. That is an experiential knowledge that no one will be able to cover in a snap. The eviction order also really weakens the very safeguards that have protected these landscapes for a long time. And we do need to learn from that, because if you look on the ground, which is precisely what we have been asking from DNR, it's also very, very clear that the rest of the landscape is gone. The rest of these parts are gone, especially the ones by the highway, no? And all of these ultimately undermine a critical watershed that supports Metro Manila and over 20 million Filipinos downstream. It impacts Filipinos during the rainy season, pagdating ng mga pagbaha, yung water supply problems natin that happen and seem to plague us for the last decade. We need to get to the root cause also of these problems when it comes to deforestation and take action.
All right. Well, Anna, what are the next steps for you if this issue isn't resolved soon? I mean, isn't it possible as well for the foundation and the government to work together to continue all these conservation efforts?
I know, we've never been against that. In fact, that's why we constantly write to DNR, because we really cannot do this work alone. We need their cooperation. We need them to convene all of these oversights, no? They keep on giving this refrain that what we want is a monopoly. The agreement doesn't even provide for a monopoly, and neither do we want it, which is why we partner with so many people, even government agencies, and even even honestly not giving up on them, even if, to be honest, for the last 2.5 years. It's ridiculous how they've been ignoring us, no? So yes, we want to work with DNR, absolutely. We've been their faithful partner. My dad has been their faithful partner since the 1990s. Even in those years where they couldn't give attention to conservation in these parts, he silently and patiently waited. No? We are not against DNR. We are against exploitation of these lands, which we know already through science and various laws, various Philippine laws should be protected, should be the ultimate zones for protection.
And finally, Anne, what is your message to the public regarding this issue, and how can they help in protecting Masungi?
Please stay vigilant. Help us call out this information. We're seeing an uptick of this online. We're very grateful because so far, the response has been very supportive and very helpful. Na malaking bagay sa team that there are more people pitching in, both online and offline. Please keep doing so. We do need your help, and we'll also be keeping you updated on the next steps that we need to take. I'd like to highlight that for those who do have an access to the president, or even if you don't, that you please help us call out to our president, Bongbong Marcos, the leadership of this administration, to put an end to this, how do I put it? This hindi ko maintindihan na circle of disinformation culminating into something that compromises all of us, no? It's not good for Filipinos. We're an at-risk climate. It's not good for the climate financing needs that our country has been clamoring for in the international space. It just doesn't add up, no? We're not just talking about a conservation issue. We're talking about one that impacts the lives of Filipinos, and one that even the World Bank has very elaborate studies on in an economic perspective. So, kailangan natin si Presidente, let's call out to him.
All right, well, we will be monitoring the developments there. But for now, thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Matters, and Dumaliang of the Masungi Georeserve Foundation.
Maraming salamat. Subaybayan niyo po ito kasama namin.
All right, now don't go away. We still have more matters to discuss right after this break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. The Comelec condemns the viral incident of alleged vote buying in Negros Oriental. A video of a politician apparently throwing 500 peso bills to the public has gone viral. The poll body said they know the name of the aspirant, but they have no power yet to act on it. An earlier Supreme Court ruling states that violations can only happen during the official campaign period. And the campaign period for local elections will officially start on March 28. These reports include resolutions and decisions made by the poll body within a year, with the initial focus on the year 2021. The Comelec reports are not for sale. Alongside this initiative, the poll body is also working on establishing the Comelec Academy. This will serve as a refresher course, particularly for long-serving employees of the agency. The poll body aims to reduce corruption and irregularities in government operations by expanding its knowledge.
Di ba mas maganda rin na may patuloy tayong pag-aaral. Meron din tayong mga empleyado dito na hindi nakapagtapos ng kolehiyo. Graft and corruption, bureaucratic red tape, inefficiency can be fought if the people are properly trained and experienced.
Now, in other news, the House of Representatives will conduct today its third hearing on fake news online. Lawmakers expect the appearance of vloggers and content creators mostly associated with the Dutertes. Among those who are required to show up include Trixie Cruz Angeles, Lorraine Badoy, and Sas Sasot. Failure to show up may result in a contempt citation and subsequent detention at the Batasang Pambansa. Some of the vloggers already went to the Supreme Court to question the constitutionality of the hearing. And now let's head over to the House of Representatives for more updates on this. Mobile journalist Marimon Reyes is now reporting to us live on the ground. Hi, Marimon. What time do we expect the hearing to start today?
Pauline, around 10 a.m., aasahan na natin yung pagsisimula ng ikatlong House Tri-Committee hearing on fake news and disinformation. And this seeks to establish a legislative framework and hopefully makabuo nga ng guidelines to regulate online content and makapag-set ng code of ethics for social media users. Pero according kay House Committee on Public Order and Safety Chairman Representative Dan Fernandez, mahalaga raw kasi na mag-hold accountable sa mga digital influencers na pumapapel sa pagkakalat ng misleading content and information. Pero nilinaw din ni Surigao del Norte Representative Robert A. Barbers na ang inquiry ay hindi raw para masuppress ang freedom of expression or speech, rather para makapagsikito ng rules or best practices to govern information dissemination. Last time, noong February 18, noong ikalawang tri-committee hearing, napag-usapan yung tax laws and yung monetizing schemes na ginagawa sa content online. Nagkaroon ng representative from Google at ibinahagi nga nito yung regulatory mechanisms and yung monetization program, tila may filtering system silang isinasagawa. Nag-issue rin ng subpoena ang TRICOM sa social media personalities and content creators na hindi nga sumipot nung ikalawang pagdinig at ang justification nga nila ay naghihintay pa sila sa guidance ng Supreme Court sa inihain nilang petition for certiorari and prohibition noong February 4. Out of the 40, 5 lang yung sumipot last time. Kaya ang nasabi nga ng Tri-Committee, posibleng humarap sa contempt and detention ang mga ito. And kasama rin yung mga social media personalities na hindi rin nagpakita. Inaasahan ngayong araw yung pagdating din ng mga representative mula sa Comelec, sa DOJ, sa NTC, PNP at iba pang mga ahensya na magpo-provide ng insight sa kanilang regulatory and enforcement measures laban sa disinformation. Nag-issue ng panel ng show cause orders sa social media platforms na Meta for Facebook at ByteDance na may-ari ng TikTok dahil sa hindi rin nila pagsipot last time. Pero ang explanation dito ng Meta ay hindi raw sila maaaring maimbitahan dahil na nakapasa sila sa Amerika. Pero ang nasabi naman ng panel dito ay pwede silang magpadala ng representative mula sa opisina dito sa Pilipinas. At ang nasabi naman din ng TikTok, meron silang scheduling conflict last time. So hopefully magkakaroon ng representatives ang mga platform na ito na magbabahagi ng insight at statistics sa paggamit ng social media. Balik sa'yo.
Alright, abangan natin na yung hearing na yan ngayong umaga. But for now, maraming salamat, mobile journalist Marymon Reyes. And that's today's episode of Morning Matters. I'm Pauline Verzosa. Have a great weekend. We are One News, all sides, all the time.